Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You figured that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. I'm back from New York, back from the Big Apple. What a wonderful, wonderful few days up in New York City. And I return to a show in disarray as I've been running into tech issues this morning. But I put in the chat, I had to move the start time of the show back. And then I asked a question that I can't imagine many people have ever been asked before. I said, have you ever taken a kid to school on a day where there wasn't, in fact, school? And I asked that because that happened today. As many of you know, there are 4 children, which means that they go to different places. Their ages are different. And so this morning, we were off to a great start with the family. I had the stream set up and everything was good to go. And then I get a call from my wife and she says, hey, our daughter's school is closed. And I was like, I don't know what that means. That doesn't compute. What does that mean, school's closed? She said, oh, because I thought that the day off was Monday, but it wasn't. It wasn't Monday. It was today. And friends, I don't even know how to respond in that moment, but I had to go get my daughter, then I had to go drop the boys off because I couldn't just let them sit around for the bus. My hair is askew. I forgot to comb my hair this morning. We're off to a great start. It's a fantastic Friday here on the Russ Joy Show. It's a frantic Friday as we try to get this show in and done in at least somewhat reasonable time and fashion and all that. So it has been a wild day. Now, I'll tell you, I got a nice night's sleep last night. Finally got to sleep in my own bed after 3 nights of being up in Nueva York. And it was a nice time. Very successful trip for work. Russ Joy delivers once again. It was a great time. Tuesday, I ended up going to NXT Roadblock. So it's a wrestling show. At the theater at Madison Square Garden, which I didn't know existed. I knew Madison Square Garden existed. I knew that the theater at Madison Square Garden existed, but it does. It was a really cool venue. Presumably, it's a great concert venue. I think I've seen that they've done a lot of NFL drafts there before, but they had the wrestling ring at the bottom, and it was just a sea of humanity. It was a great show. And then Wednesday was just wall-to-wall meetings and panels and all kinds of stuff. And then I got one of the perks of my job. I got to go up into a luxury suite at the very top of Madison Square Garden for those first 3 games, I guess like the lead into the Big East tournament. So I got to watch Villanova run roughshod on Seton Hall. I didn't pay attention. I don't actually know what happened last night in the Big East tournament. Did Nova get bounced? Did Kyle Neptune go back to being what we think he is? I don't know. I didn't look at what happened yesterday. Yeah, UConn. Okay, UConn beat Villanova. So I got to watch Villanova beat Seton Hall, and then apparently last night UConn won. Shows you how much I paid attention to the start of the tournament. But anyway, it was a great time. Wednesday was wonderful. Then Thursday I get up, and I'm like, there are still some meetings, there are still some panels to go to, but then I'm like, I have to get back to Philadelphia because I got to go do the Press Row show. And my dear friend Ant is now down in Florida doing the Clearwater thing, the spring training thing. And so it's just been a lot of, I don't know. It's just a mess. It's a mess. And again, my hair is askew, but I got to sleep in my own bed. I slept more than the 3 hours I slept the night before. So I think that's a pretty good thing. Now, I'm going to go over to the comments here really quick. We have some stuff to get into. Today's not a very serious show because there are like some news and some nuggets and some tidbits of things, but like ultimately nothing too crazy. So we're going to get there. Really quick. Chris Freed says, what's your favorite John Feinstein book? I don't have one. Allison, how was New York? Great. Greg Bondarenko with the morning all. Greg says, Russ, did you get to pick up any babka in New York? I'm headed to New York City's East Village to get some kielbasa for Easter. Short version, I still have some babka from the last time that I went to New York. I hit up, this is like the whole thing. So yesterday, right? Yesterday was a wild time trying to zoom through the city to get what I needed. I always bring back bagels. I found a place that was like relatively close to where this conference was at, near Wall Street, I think. Maybe I was a little bit farther up at that point. But I ended up going to a place. I got like 12. I got 14 bagels. Buy 12, get 2 free. So I did that. And then I realized they didn't have any pretzel bagels. And I'm like getting ready to leave New York. And I remember that before I left, my kids were like, Dad, if you can find the pretzel bagels again, that would be awesome. So I'm about ready to leave. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to drive 20 minutes up to Midtown. And I found the Russ and Daughters appetizers place. There's like 3 or 4 different Russ and Daughters from what I gathered. But I went in. They had the pretzel bagels, so I went and got those as well. And they had make this chocolate caviar, right? So they're just like little spheres of chocolate, but they're in a little tin like caviar. So Dad, very popular return to the house. The children were very happy this morning. And you just realize as a parent, while it's nice to have a little bit of time to yourself, you come back and, you hold one of the kids, another one kind of piles onto your back, and all of a sudden it just kind of feels like the world is back to the way that it's supposed to be. Now, this camera's not how it's supposed to be. What a mess. Maybe I'll just cancel the show today. The tech issues might be too much for me to get through today. We'll just start again on Monday. Nah, we'll get through it. Let's see. Chris says Ed Wade does not belong on the Wall of Fame. Greg was baffled by that. Ford says Sunday's Union game. Rain looks to arrive by 5:30, so I think the play, it'll be cloudy, but warm and windy, better than freezing. Hopefully it's a decent time with the wife and kids. Ford, enjoy yourself. I said this, I think, early. Jeez, we did a show on Monday, and there was one on Wednesday. I think Monday, Ford brought this up, and I said there's no bad seat at Subaru Park. You'll have a lot of fun. Hopefully it doesn't rain. Hopefully you're able to get away with it. So, Josh Gaynor says it's always a crapshoot this time of year. The breeze coming off the Delaware can be brutal at times in early spring. Let's see some back and forth over there. Andrew Fawcett is here with a good morning, all. People are now talking about the pros and cons of watching soccer in person. Landros sending over some good thoughts as well. Landros is flying down to Myrtle Beach next week to golf. Have fun out there. Well, I'm sure that'll be a great time. Let's see. We had the back and forth. Andrew Fawcett says it was 93 down here yesterday. Beautiful. Oh, that's way too warm. Way too warm. As I was late here this morning, Greg thought that it was because I was still in shock of the Flyers win. Zacho with the RST, Russ Standard Time. Yeah. Let's see. And then we have all the people. Yeah. So when I said about like the school thing not working out, how does it happen? It was great when my wife legitimately, when she called me, she was like, hey, you got to get her. So then I had to go drive to my wife's place of employment to go pick up our daughter. And I had the boys in the back seat because they had to go to school. But they somehow weren't late. Pretty wild. Landros says, we've had 15 no bus days this year. Even the threat of bad weather, they cancel school. That's horrible. What does that even mean? No bus days? Like they just say we're not sending a bus out because of what, the bad weather? I don't know how to feel about that. It's strange. Landros wants me to comb the hair. No, Landros, you know what? If you aren't willing to put up with me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. Yeah. Allison says my kids send my kids' school send 1 million reminders when schools close. Yeah, we didn't get that today. I don't remember seeing anything about it. Sean C says if the Flyers were going to win last night, I'm glad it wasn't in a shootout. What? If the Flyers were going to win last night, I'm glad it wasn't in a shootout. It was. They won in a shootout. Penguins got a regulation win, and the Flyers win does not count towards the tiebreaker. Okay. Got it. That makes a little bit more sense now. Josh Gaynor says, I walked into my middle school once without me or my parents realizing I didn't have school. Was it an in-service day? Because usually they don't just leave the schools unlocked and whatever. Allison says, how about intern Andrew finally predicting the Flyers would win and getting the score right? It is the worst thing to happen. Intern Andrew was in the midst of what should have been a 6-game losing streak, because make no mistake that if Kucherov had played last night, Tampa Bay would have run roughshod on the Flyers. They looked disjointed most of that game. But yeah, not only does he get a win and end his losing streak, but he also gets 2 points, which now widens the gap between he and the rest of the crew because everybody else picked Tampa. I really thought we were going to get to a place where there was going to almost be a 4-way tie, and now I'm disappointed. Sean C. says, I can't imagine enjoying this era of NXT unironically. I don't watch NXT much at all, but I like Obafemi, and Stephanie Vaquer is awesome. And I got to see the Hardys, and like in fairness, the Hardys haven't been the Hardys for a very long time, but it's still kind of cool to like be in person. I think it's the first time I've seen them in person, or like maybe since like 2000, maybe at a house show. So it's still cool. Let's see. Jim goes, so wait, you actually dropped your daughter off at a closed school? No. My wife pulled up to the school, and a teacher going in for the in-service was like, hey, there's no school today. So then my wife took our daughter to work with her until I picked her up. Let's see. Philly fan says, any concerns with Danny B? Has not found one diamond in the rough and turned it into a player. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Philly fan. That's not even like remotely crossed my mind here at any point in the last month. I don't know. I mean, Paling and Hathaway weren't like diamond in the rough guys. Let me think about it. Let me think about it for next week. Again, like just based on the way that they're kind of building the roster, I think it's a good question, but it's one I haven't put any thought into. So we'll punt it to next week. Let's see. Oh, so there we go. So Sean C. fixed it, I guess, about the thing with if they were going to win last night. I'm glad it was in a shootout, not wasn't. Okay. There we go. Now we're good. Chris Freed says, I went to Seton Hall Law School. At some point, Seton Hall will have another 1989 run. Maybe. Amy says, I had to remove my son's homework from the trash last night after dinner. Had been cleaned up and take pictures to send to the teacher. Then this morning forgot to put his other homework in his folder. You know what I'm learning? I didn't like doing homework as a kid, but I don't remember my parents ever having to like do everything for me. And my kids like sometimes have what I like to call learned helplessness, where it's like, no, you guys know how to do this stuff. And like, I'm not doing it for you. You need to figure it out and advocate for yourself and like put the things that you're responsible for, you have to do. And we're getting there with it, but boy, it takes time. Let's see. Philly fan says, I also feel like he did not, I guess this is Briere, did not understand that Toronto was more desperate for a deal than us, yet could not get the pick protection off when retaining and giving low picks. Yeah, you and I aren't on the same planet here at all. The pick protection doesn't matter. I mean, unless Toronto like legitimately like runs into a meat grinder, you're going to get that pick in 2027. No. The fact that you got a first-round pick back, even with a relatively fine protection for a bottom six forward, is totally fine. I think your expectations might be a little bit too high. Sean C. says, Leafs fans are not impressed with Scott Lawton, and it turns out I was right about Grebenkin, who struggles with visas more than the Union and the Flyers. We'll see him next season. I don't think they had any intention of having Grebenkin like get actual run here this season, so I don't even know if that matters. But we'll probably see him next year. Let's see. All right, I think we're good. I think we're Sean Seiko's which school districts were this soft when I went to school? Threat of snow, remote learning, in-service day after in-service day. And Josh walked into that school. He said it was workshop day. Front doors were locked, so I couldn't get in. Woof. All right. Okay, let's see. Was there anything? Jamie says, go to school in Maryland. It's by county down there, so I would have school canceled when I got rain and the town over an hour away got half a foot of snow. Same county, though. Oh, yeah, my wife taught in PG County, down in Prince George's County. Quite the interesting place. I'll just leave it at that. But, yeah, the county-wide system is absolutely insane. There are a lot of things about Maryland that make little to no sense to me. The county-wide system is certainly at or near the top of the list of things that make no sense in Maryland. Let's see. Jamie Rollo Thursday. Here we go. So I don't know. I must have missed something in the comments here. We have people going back and forth about the Flyers. But Jamie Rollo says, Scott Walker turned him into a first-rounder. Yeah, like Breer's done a good job. He's done a good job of getting off of players that aren't worth first-round picks and getting first-round picks for them. Let's see. Amy says, older son is a work in process. Threw the homework out. Good on you. Okay. Let me try to bring this in because the show is very disjointed and all over the place today. The Eagles have made some signings. They've watched a mass exodus of players. There are people that are starting to get themselves worked up that Howie misread the market. You have Jimmy Rollins going on the Wall of Fame. That's also in the thumbnail of the episode. You have the Flyers breaking their losing streak. And you have Daryl Morey now kind of going viral for talking about using AI, not Allen Iverson, but artificial intelligence when making decisions with the Sixers. And so, I have to be honest with you. I don't feel particularly inspired by any of these things because the Eagles signings are okay. I don't look at the Eagles signings as being concerning in any way. And I don't think that Howie misread the market. Okay? And I talked about this on Wednesday's show with Brodes. But you weren't going to be able to bring Milton Williams back. And Milton Williams got paid an exorbitant amount of money. And it's not that he doesn't deserve that money, but I don't think that there are a lot of teams that would have been happy giving Milton Williams the contract that he got. And so good for him that he got the deal. And by the way, when he met with the media, he said, I just won a Super Bowl a couple weeks ago, and I thought that would be the biggest thing because he's like, this might actually top it. Well, hell yeah, man. Dude went out, won a Super Bowl, which is awesome. Then he got paid. New England's contract for Milton Williams is next level absurd. But good for him. Will he ever live up to that contract? Probably not. But he got himself paid. Josh Sweat goes out to Arizona. Seemingly a very good place for him to land, and he's very excited. These guys should be thrilled, okay? These guys who helped to contribute to a Super Bowl win, they should be thrilled. You see Big Play Slay land with Pittsburgh. You see CJGJ get dealt off to Houston. These guys are going to thrive in their new situations. I know that there was a hope that there were going to be players that would take a hometown discount to stay here, and that to this point it hasn't happened, and that the CJGJ trade was really a shock to the system because in fairness, I do think it was kind of surprising that they decided to do it. But if you look at all of the moves in aggregate, you should be able to replace Milton Williams. You still have an absolute beast in the middle of that line, in that interior line, in Jalen Carter. You still have a massive human being next to him in Jordan Davis. Should you be able to overcome the loss of Big Play Slay? You would certainly hope so. And, maybe they're going to try to give Ringo the shot. They go out and they sign Adoree Jackson, who used to play for the Giants, who is a good veteran to bring in. They're not giving anybody Boku bucks. They're essentially going out and giving some, prove-it deals to players. So you get Adoree Jackson in, who's going to presumably compete for one of those outside corner spots. That could be a good potential signing. If he blows your doors off and if his play is exceptional, well, then guess what? He's either going to earn himself a payday here or he's going to earn himself a new contract very soon with another team. So it's a smart signing. They ended up getting what's-his-nuts from the Raiders to play tight end, who's going to push Calcaterra. Great. We could feel, I guess, okay about that one. It's not anything crazy. The signing that I'm actually maybe the most intrigued by is A.J. Dillon, because you think about the running back situation, and we've talked about this on this show, but when you look at the amount of touches that Saquon Barkley had a season ago, typically, historically, players who have had the number of touches that Saquon Barkley did a season ago, those players oftentimes fall off the following season. I mean, and they can fall off pretty dramatically. A.J. Dillon is a guy who can get the job done, who could be a change of pace back. There is even a probable belief out there that A.J. Dillon, if you really wanted to, could split some carries with Saquon Barkley. Not a 50-50 situation, but like if you needed to, if you were effectively trying to load manage at any given point, A.J. Dillon's a good running back. And so again, it's another one-year deal, and it's essentially a prove-it deal. Like I think what the Eagles are doing here is smart. Like you're trying once again to put some of your younger guys in position to prove that they belong and that they can step up and that they can grab a starting spot, especially on that defense, by the throat. And so much of this to me comes down to Vic Fangio. Again, I really think that what you're seeing here is a belief that Fangio is going to be able to, maybe take a guy like Ringo and elevate him. Maybe take a guy like Jackson, elevate him. And then ultimately, like, maybe we're having a conversation a year from now where the Adoree Jackson signing is like Zach Bond 2.0, where like he comes in and for whatever reason becomes this incredible dynamic and incredible lockdown corner. And then next year you're like, all right, well, now we have to sign Adoree Jackson. Like, I don't know for sure. I'm not going to like stand here and be like, oh yeah, it's 100% going to happen. But like, I like the idea of the prove it deal. And by the way, since a bunch of these contracts are one-year deals, if they don't work, you're not locked into them long term. It's kind of a win-win for this team. At the same time, like it's fair to like look at the guys leaving in aggregate, and this is the point I was trying to make to Brodes on Wednesday, but like when you do look at Milton Williams and Josh Sweat and CJGJ and Big Play Slay and Isaiah Rodgers, all of those guys leaving at once creates a void. And now it's a matter of seeing if the young guys and if these veteran players on one-year deals are able to fill that void and excel. And that is really interesting. Now, I think I tweeted earlier this week that I'd be shocked if Dallas Goedert were still a member of the Philadelphia Eagles by the end of the week. And I guess I've softened that stance, but I thought by now, I really did believe that he was going to be gone. I really thought that by now, Dallas Goedert was going to move on, legitimately. Like I thought that they were going to move on from him because of what he's about to get paid. So I'm kind of shocked he's still here. Maybe they're going to rework a deal. I really don't know. I'm going to go over to the comments here because there's a lot of stuff here about the Eagles, and we're going to get to. I think we'll go to Daryl Morey next, and then we'll get to the Flyers, and then to the Wall of Fame. Try to end on a high note, a nice high note with Jimmy Rollins today. Let's see. Jim Cochran says, "Big play Slay, more like every other play Slay. Dude was always leaving the game hurt, turning into a mini Jason Peters." Let's not go that far, all right? He's going to do well out in Pittsburgh. I gave him back his moniker of Big Play Slay because end of the regular season and into the playoffs, he did, in fact, make some big plays. We're going to end on a high note with him. I also appreciate the fact, I know it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but like his wife goes to Twitter after it was when he first got, like when they were parting ways, and she said there were real tears on their side of things. And then you had that like kind of follow-up not long after, like as he's leaving. She tweeted something about how appreciative that she and Slay were for their treatment by Philly fans and how great it was and to win a Super Bowl. And like, I feel like very often when you see somebody who is like the spouse or the sibling or whatever of a player, and they have a big enough profile for you to be aware of who they are, that oftentimes that's indicative of a headache, Anna Horford. And so I like the fact that there was a little bit more of an acknowledgement that like things aren't bad in Philadelphia. It was a good time. So that was cool. Landros 2 says, after signing Bond and Becton, I trust Howie. I guess last year. You could trust him because of the one-year deals. I don't know what's happening with Mekhi Becton. What I had been told, what I had heard about, I don't know, a week or two ago, is that Mekhi Becton might want to pursue the chance to play tackle again And because you can get paid so much more money to play tackle, that he might have wanted to go that way and explore the market as a tackle. And that part of the reason that you haven't seen him re-sign with Philly is because he wants tackle money. You're not going to pay a guard tackle money, but the Eagles view him as a guard. So it's a tricky situation. And the way that the market, I guess, will ultimately kind of pan out is going to tell you whether or not a team is willing to take a shot on putting Becton back at tackle. I would love to have him back. He's only 25 years old. Now, I don't know what that contract would have to look like, and it might be something that is just so cost prohibitive you can't do it. But I love the idea of bringing back as much of that offensive line as you can and setting this offense up for total success and domination. The player that they got back, whose name currently escapes me, for CJGJ, listen, maybe you send him to Stoutland University and all of a sudden like he's a redeemable player, but his rating across the board as a guard has been horrific in this league. And so I can't imagine that that's your answer at guard. So hopefully Becton at some point, maybe they're able to figure it out, work it out. I hope. Raymond Supper says Howie's setting the table for the draft with these moves. And it's entirely possible. He's always playing a long game, so maybe. Ford says Eagles still have the best overall roster in the NFC. I think there's a chance that they do. I just have a little bit of a concern. Again, I like the prove-it deals. I like giving young guys the chance, and we saw how Fangio was able to help elevate the Quinyon Mitchells and the Cooper DeJeans of the world. But I do have a slight concern. I can't give a front office total carte blanche, right? Or I can't give them the full benefit of the doubt. Yes, the Eagles just won a Super Bowl, and Howie built a really good team. And at the same time, like, that doesn't mean that from now until like 5 years from now, I'm going to say that they can do no wrong. Like, that's not how this works. Have to be fair. Jim Cochran says, patience, Birds fans. In Howie, we trust they'll be fine. Landro says, maybe they saw Ringo all year every day and know he can handle it. It's possible. Andrew Foster says, I'm worried about next season. I'm happy for the Super Bowl this year and would be fine with a bit of a retool for a year. Nah, you can't do a retool. Well, a retool is tweaking, but like you should actively do whatever you can to keep this dynasty window open. And so like it might be a gamble, and the gamble might pay off. It also might blow up in their face. It's hard to know. All right, let's see. I think that was about as much as I wanted to go into there. Chris Freed says Jason Peters makes the Pro Football Hall of Fame before Chase and Kelsey does. Yeah, of course he will. Well, at least I would assume so. I mean, there's part of me that wants to say that Jason Peters played a more important position. Center's really important. Jason Peters was like, well, Kelsey was the best center in the sport for a good chunk of time. Peters was arguably the best tackle. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the way that people are going to look at both of those guys in terms of like their entire career, there's probably a good chance that people would look at Jason Peters with a little bit more respect isn't the word. The way that people, I think, look at Jason Peters, his career as a whole, I think they look at him being more dominant at his position at tackle, and that for better or worse, center is just like such an undervalued position that even being the best player at that position just isn't looked at as glamorously or as much in a being appreciated sense. That's, I guess, where I would land. I think that you're probably right that like Peters makes it into the Hall of Fame first, but it's not necessarily totally merit-based there. Like, Peters was really good, but Peters did have a bunch of seasons at the end of his career where, like, he didn't play a lot, or it kind of felt like he was just, like, unwilling to give it up, whereas, like, Kelsey went out pretty much on top. He was still the best center in the league when he retired. It's tricky, and I guess some of it is subjective, but that's where I'm at. Sean C. says, sometimes Slay just talked and tweeted too much, Super Bowl champ or not, the whole thing at the end with CJGJ was annoying. CJGJ took the high road when he talked about the trade the other day. There was just like a weird thing there between those two, it seems. I don't know. Remember, Slay went on Micah Parsons' podcast at the beginning of the year and kind of shaded CJGJ. And then after he left, he said that Reed Blankenship was going to be a great leader in the secondary, not CJ. Like, didn't mention CJGJ. Like, it was just, I don't know. Half the time I wonder, did Fangio just go, yo, this isn't worth it, AJ says, just catching up, good morning, and I didn't expect a PG County name drop. Pour one out for Rips. Yeah, so AJ used to live down in PG County as well, and there's a place called Rips. Now, I don't know if Rips is still there or not, but it was a deli and a liquor store, and Rips was right by the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium, and there were many a weekend that I got to experience going down to PG County and hitting up Rips. The Bay Sox, you would always get the fireworks. It was nice. It was nice. PG County had like good places, and there were good moments, and there are very good memories down there. And then there's some parts of PG County that you just don't want to go. Let's see. Jim Cochran says, the sexy pick is that Washington wins the NFC East, but my money is on Jaden Daniels taking a step back. Interesting. Well, I mean, a lot of people, in fairness, they do say, there are people who look for the sophomore slump. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to take like a huge step back. There's a case to be made that Jaden Daniels could buck the trend and end up being a really good player once again. Maybe he even takes a step forward. I like the guy. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. And I think that Washington team, now that Dan Snyder isn't the owner, the culture overall just seems better down there and more conducive to a young player being able to find success and have measured and sustainable success. That's where I'm at. Not saying that he's going to take a step back, though. All right, the last-ish thing that I guess I want to get to, I mean, the show's going about as long as I want it to go today. Jimmy Rollins made the Wall of Fame, which is very well-deserved. We can all be happy for Jimmy Rollins, and if you think back to the time that Rollins spent in this city, there were certainly the ups and downs of his tenure. A down would be calling Philly fans front runners, though there is a bit of truth in the comment itself. Maybe one day we'll go back and we'll fully dissect the entire thing. But like, Rollins was right that this fan base can be fickle, okay? This team, like the Phillies as a whole, right? The fan base supported the Phillies. There was that incredible sellout streak for a very long time because the baseball team was really good. We have seen what happens when Phillies teams are underwhelming or uninspiring. Even of late, there have been times within the last few years where the Phillies are a potential World Series contender, and yet the ballpark isn't full. When things are going very well, this fan base loves the Phillies. When things are mediocre, you get a really mixed bag in terms of attendance. You do get people who jump on the bandwagon. You do get people who don't support the team through all highs and lows. So Rollins, to some extent, was right, but that lit people on fire. Who could ever forget the comment? I think that we're the favorite to win the NL East. Finally, that was a thing. That became bulletin board material. But ultimately, Rollins was here through one of the peak times in the entire history of the Philadelphia Phillies. Won a World Series here. I mean, as much as people love the 93 team, they didn't get it done. That 08 team did, and Rollins was a huge part of it. Who could forget the year that Jimmy Rollins wins the MVP? Some called it a controversial win. Seemed very well deserved. He also played at a premium position. And good on the guy for getting on the Wall of Fame. It is a very well-deserved honor. And I'll tell you what, very excited for him. I think that when people look back on Jimmy Rollins, they'll realize that they didn't fully appreciate him. I think in the moment we knew that we had a really great shortstop. But to look back on it now, I think he was even better than we were willing to admit at the time. And I don't know why, but that dude could ball. That guy was maybe it's because we had to deal with Trey Turner and Trey Turner's bullshit for a few years. But Rollins was damn good, dynamic, great at the top of the lineup, could get on base, could cause havoc on the base paths, could pop a homer when you needed him to. He's a great guy. Could hit a gap. Love Jimmy Rollins. Good on him for making the Wall of Fame. Now, Sean C. with a good point. First '08 player to be inducted. I think it's well-deserved, especially because you also take into consideration the tenure here, the length of time that he was here, and again, the era that he was here. You know, you could have made a case that maybe Ryan Howard should go on the wall. I think he'll get there. I would say that in aggregate, Rollins had a more successful career. I think that Rollins was the guy from that team. Like, if you go back to the '08 squad and you think about, like, if any of these guys were going to, like, maybe knock on the door of the MLB Hall of Fame, who would it be? Rollins probably had the best case. Howard, had he not torn the Achilles and gone on a few more years of around 50 homers, maybe makes that case. Chase Utley, who was very well beloved, there was a case to be made there. There were some down years towards the end that maybe affect his case negatively. Rollins, to me, always felt like the guy who was the most likely. Certainly wasn't Bobby Abreu, was not a Pat Burrell. Rollins was great, and it's very cool to see him get on the wall. Sean C. says, Jimmy's defense was incredible. He has the numbers that other actual Hall of Fame shortstops have had. A shame he won't have that luxury. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, it's going to be a while. I don't think that he does make it in. Greg Bondarenko asks, does this start the Wall of Fame run for the '08 team? I would assume that over the next few years, you're going to see Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Cole Hamels will get on there. The real question is, like, play this one out in your head, okay? Because I know that this is going to sound insane. I know for a fact that when I say this, it's going to sound crazy, okay? I totally get it. I understand. And I'm not saying that it's a fully great idea, and I'm not saying that it's something that should be taken really seriously. But, like, does Joe Blanton get on the Wall of Fame? Like, I'm not serious, but, like, average Joe Blanton was on the '08 team that won a World Series. He hit a home run in the World Series. He was part of some great rotations in Phillies history, including the four aces plus average Joe. Now, I get the fact that in his tenure as a Philly, the numbers weren't great. A 4.47 ERA. But the man did rack up 34 massive wins in 5 years as a Philly. Huh? No, probably not. No, I don't think average Joe gets in. How about Jamie Moyer? Love Jamie Moyer. Not a Wall of Fame guy. It'll be interesting to see how many of those guys end up getting in or getting onto the wall. We definitely know that it has to be some combo of Rollins, Utley, Howard. Sean C. is interesting in saying, like, Cliff Lee kind of became a recluse. So you put Blanton's Wall of Fame chances higher. Like, Cliff Lee probably doesn't get on the wall, even though, like, it's tricky because he missed it by a year. The '09 World Series performance that Cliff Lee put out is fantastic, right? That was an incredible postseason out of Cliff Lee. And he was on those teams, and again, a very important part of those great rotations. It was a very short tenure in Philadelphia, and again, the end of the career really inflated some numbers. Does Cliff Lee make it onto the Wall of Fame? Like, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he does. I think that winning the World Series gives, man, does Joe Blanton have a better Wall of Fame case because of helping them win the World Series and being here and part of those rotations? Cliff Lee had better numbers but didn't win the World Series. Joe Blanton won a World Series. I know it's crazy. Like, I know it's a stupid talking point, but, like, do we add Joe Blanton? Carlos Ruiz also belongs on there. You got to have Chooch. Chooch has to be on the Wall of Fame as well. So you got, all right, so 5 guys from '08 definitely make it on. Rollins, Utley, Howard, Hamels, Chooch. Those are at least 5 that will at some point make it onto the Wall of Fame. Let me know in the comments who else you think belongs on the Wall of Fame from that '08 team. And if you want to extend it out and you go all '08 to 2011, 2012, let me know who should have been on or who should eventually get onto the Wall of Fame. I'm very interested in knowing. Jim Cochran asks, does Brad Lidge get on? He had that incredible perfect season, right? And you won the World Series. Is that enough? Because again, Lidge, like a bunch of these other guys, there were some numbers a little bit later on that went very sideways. Does that hurt his case? I don't know. Greg Bondarenko, Victorino. Victorino probably makes it onto the Wall of Fame. So that's number 6. I'd say he's pretty much a lock to make it onto the Wall of Fame. I don't know if Jason Worth makes it, though. Jason Worth was important, right? He was an important player for them. But I don't think he makes the Wall of Fame. I don't. Interesting. All right. You let me know in the comments. Last thing we're going to get to. We could have ended on positive. Do we end on positive? Like I said that Daryl Morey said something really weird about artificial intelligence, and then people got really upset. Do we go there? Do we end our week talking about Daryl Morey and artificial intelligence? It was part of what I put in the description of the episode, so I kind of have to follow through on it, don't I? I guess. All right, we're going to really quickly go over because Pablo Torre had Daryl Morey on his show. I think this was part of a larger convention or something, but Daryl Morey, who is at the forefront of analytics, also then gets asked about whether or not he uses artificial intelligence when making decisions for the Sixers. And in fairness, like whatever he answers here, the Sixers should do the opposite. And again, Daryl Morey should not be here next year, but let's just hear what he had to say. And in the least surprising answer ever, yes, Daryl Morey uses artificial intelligence. Chuck Fletcher, of course, once had an app. If you're a Flyers fan, you'll remember that at one point, Chuck Fletcher talked about how hard it is to make trades, but they have an app that helps them evaluate potential trades for the Flyers. And now Daryl Morey, he uses artificial intelligence. All right, let's go.
When you're making a decision, and insert your favorite Sixers decision here, are you asking an LLM for their input?
So we two answers there. We absolutely use models as a vote in any decision, and how much of that decision depends on, how much the assumptions behind those models don't change, and their past success rate. So if you have a highly successful model for picking draft picks, and we think that the game, Evan hasn't changed the rules yet, and so the game isn't changed.
Evan Wash, who's in charge of the league office,
thank you,
of defeating you.
Yes, then the models get a lot of weight in those decisions. It turns out LLMs do fairly well at prediction. They still are not beating human, like super forecasters they're called, like in Human Judgment Project talks about it. But they do add signal over just scouts and things like that. So
I'm screaming on the inside. I'm just trying not to do it because it's a Friday show.
we'll treat them almost like one scout. Now, over time, if it's shown that they have a better track record than scouts, we might weight the LLMs or use multiple LLMs as.
The LM might be better than your scout. Then why do you have your scout? What? If the LM does a better job than the scout does, then it brings into question why that scout still has a job. Okay, we continue.
One or two votes out of the process. So it turns out I'm building on a lot of things that Sentil knows, and you know that multi-model approaches can put you more on the decision frontier, the optimal decision frontier. And when I say that carefully, you get very similar accuracy with lower risk by using multi-model approaches. And so that's why we do that.
I would just like NBA Central to aggregate what Daryl just said, which is that he asked ChatGPT for help on trades.
Yeah, please not aggregate.
I'm
I don't like this guy. I just don't. I don't. Let me rephrase that. Daryl Morey might be a really nice guy. James Harden says he's a liar, and James Harden knows Daryl Morey far better than I do. But I really just don't. I listen to that, and I just don't like the guy as the president of basketball ops. I really, really, really need Daryl Morey to be let go in the offseason. Because between this and, like, in fairness, you should use every tool at your disposal, right? You can use AI within the decision-making process of a team. That's fine. I could make a case that not using ever-evolving AI models would be a mistake. But the problem is Daryl Morey doesn't understand this fan base, as evidenced by the comments about the Knicks series being voted the most entertaining series in the playoffs that year. And saying that the Sixers fans, to his knowledge or to his understanding, are just driven by anger. He doesn't understand the fan base as is. And then it's yet again a smartest guy in the room, holier than thou, bullshit rant that he goes on. We use the models, and the LMs are sometimes better than the scouts. And shut up. Just shut up. I never thought I would want Brian Colangelo back, but I would take Brian Colangelo back here in a heartbeat. I would even allow Jerry Colangelo back. I would trade multiple second-round picks for whatever husk of a human being is left in Ish Smith. I would do it all again. I would. I would bring them all back. I would. I would bring back Markelle Fultz and just tell him he's never allowed to shoot again. I would put myself through that again. I'd bring back Ben Simmons in the offseason and just let him collect money while he's wearing a full-sized wall clock around his neck. I would do that if it meant I didn't have to deal with Daryl Morey ever again. Ever again. Never. I'd go through like 3 more bad process Sixers seasons to not have Daryl Morey here. Would I trade Tyrese Maxey to get rid of... No, I wouldn't. Let's not be crazy. I just don't like this guy as the president of basketball. He needs to go. He's got to go. Everybody mocked Chuck Fletcher for the app. And again, that app versus using AI modeling is very different. But this guy just has to go. He has to go. He cannot be here. Colangelo, more like Colangelo. You know, Joe Papel says, hearing that, I want Sam Hinkie back. They mocked Sam Hinkie. They never let him see his plan to fruition. And then they went out and eventually they went and got his mentor, and his mentor makes me want to scream. Ford says Morey will be fired. I don't know if he will, but if there are basketball gods and they listen to the Russ Joy Show, let us hope that they're going to see that Daryl Morey is no longer with this team after this year. Okay? Jim Cochran with a great comment, maybe the comment of the day and the one to end on. I don't have an issue with Morey using AI. I use AI to create my chat content for the Russ Joy Show. And on that is the perfect way to end. Jim, a roaring round of applause for you. That is very good. I will be back on Saturday over on the Snow the Goalie channel with the Press Row Show as we finish up that 7th game in 11 days. 7th game in 11 days. The homestand finally comes to an end. I don't even think we really talked about the Flyers today, and I'm sorry. I mentioned that they ended the skid, won in a shootout, no Kucherov for the Lightning. They picked up 2 points. Oh, but that actually does remind me. We have to do the thing really quick. We have to, especially because it's a Friday. We have to run the double tankathon just to see, for the Sixers and for the Flyers, where they're going to end up. We can't do the show. It's bad juju. Actually, last night, if you watch the Press Row show, you'll know we spun the NHL one, and the Flyers, for the first time on Snow the Goalie, got the top pick. As things stand right now, the Sixers have the sixth best odds of going up to the number 1 overall pick. We're going to sim for the Sixers. Will they? Ooh, they move up to number 3. I like that. All right, so, hey, a little bit of positivity on the NBA side of things. Let's go over to the NHL. Flyers, where they have been for quite a while. 7th best odds of getting the number 1 overall pick. Tied on points with Pittsburgh, who won their 3rd straight game. Seattle also won their most recent game. Nashville has won 4 straight. There is a path, maybe, to that number 4 spot. Maybe even all the way down to number 3. Let's not get crazy, but maybe. All right, here we go. Sim the lottery. Said we ran it on a positive note. They stay at number 7. I will gladly take not going down. That, my friends, is a great place to end the Russ Joy Show. So again, I'll be back on Saturday with the Press Row Show over on the Snow the Goalie account. I'm going to try at some point. I don't know if it'll happen today or not. Going to try to get, and it's just wrestling out there, but this week has just been insane. And then we'll be back on Monday with the Russ Joy Show, 8:30 a.m. on Monday and Wednesday and Friday every week. You know where to go. So until Monday, this has been the Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, but you figured that out already because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. I hope that each and every one of you have an absolutely exceptional weekend. Forward to you and your family and anybody else going out to Subaru Park this weekend. I hope it doesn't rain, and if it does, hopefully it's just a little spurt. Enjoy the game out there. Maybe we'll be talking about another big Union win on Monday. We will talk on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk to each and every one of you very, very soon.